Toni Basil, your energy always makes me smile. So I have to say, it is great to be Zooming with you.
I am so excited to see you again. When was the last time we chat? Like 2019?
Now, I think it was about 2019. That's right. It was at the Hollywood show.
Down, roll up, and bend and snap. I taught you the bend and snap on camera. And you did quite well.
Well, you're being very kind. My recollection is there was a lot of snapping, not too much fabulous bending.
I see. Well, I thought you did terrific.
You're kind. You have that wonderful, gracious heart. Little known fact, you actually have some relatives in Australia and New Zealand, as I hear.
Not just some, my whole mother's side of the family.
Is that
the
right?
The Andersons and the Hobbs. And of course, their vaudevillian stage name was Billy Wells and the Four Fays. And Aunt Christine, who was born in Sydney, I have a video of Aunt Christine and Iva on my YouTube channel, Toni Basil's House, and they are dancing in a silent film with their adopted Uncle Billy. And then and that's 1919. I have a video of the act, which was when my mother was old enough to join the act, and she joined them with their younger brother in America. They called it Billy Wells and the Four Fays, and I have on my YouTube channel them performing on Ed Sullivan, 1964, the same show as the Beatles premiered. I mean, I come from such vaudevillian craziness, you have no idea.
Now, looking back over your showbiz career, Toni, many people think it began for you in Las Vegas High. Actually, it goes back to Chicago, and you were a little girl.
My dad was the orchestra leader at the Low State Theater. I stood on the side of the stage. I saw from Frank Sinatra to Judy Garland, Josephine Baker.
What was it like, Toni, as a little girl, standing on the side of that stage and looking at legends like Josephine Baker, and as you mentioned, Frank Sinatra, and the great Judy Garland, who certainly then in the 40s and so forth, she was in her prime, wasn't she?
I knew it was special. I did not take it for granted. And Dad always had me dance for the acts. And then we moved to Vegas. Well, Vegas, you know, was Hello Las Vegas, and Dad played at the Sahara Hotel. So that was kind of the Buddy Hackett, all those kind of crazy comics. I saw all of that all the time. And I was going to Las Vegas High by then, and I was head cheerleader at Las Vegas High, which in the Mickey video, I'm wearing my letter sweater. So everything was always show business for me. You know, I just had that 40th anniversary of the release of Mickey in the USA.
Of course.
Do you know that it was #1 in Australia in 81?
I certainly do, because I used to tap my toes to Hey Mickey back in 1982. And not only that, but it was co-written by Mike Chapman, who's an Australian.
Originally, what he wrote was a song called Kitty.
How did that song find you?
Well, you know, I was doing a lot of live shows myself. So I had I was working a lot with Devo. And we started out that deal with just 3 songs. And they were all 3 Devo songs. You Got a Problem, Space Girls, and Be Stiff. And I did the 3 videos, 3 promotional videos for them. They got a huge reaction at Midem. And all of a sudden we got funding to do more musical stuff. So people were sending me at the time cassettes. They were little cassettes and, you know, ideas for songs. And I ran across this song called Kitty. I thought, you know what, that might be a little too cute. Maybe it's not the direction I was going. This I had worked with Bowie. I had worked, you know, I wanted it maybe a little grittier, but I had this idea about writing a cheerleader song. I remember running across this cassette of Kitty, and I thought, I'm going to get a cheerleader's chant and put it on top of that song. You know, it became an anthem. It's never gone away. young kids still dance to it, you know, in America with their cheerleading. Kids love it. And adults that are, you know, that grew up with it, it's become an anthem. And it's always used for something. You know, you always hear it on a you know, on a commercial, on a subway commercial, on something. It never goes away.
Well, I hope, Toni, and I hope this is not prying, but I hope that song made you very rich.
No, it didn't.
Didn't it? Why?
No. Well, okay. So let's see what I can say. I did when, well, you know, it was done for a European label. And it's very tricky to get, even when you have a hit, to get money out of anything other than America. And I just won a 203 copyright reversion, which won me 10 songs. Mickey is one of them that we just won in court. But because they don't want to let go of it, they appealed the win. So now I'm fighting the win.
Oh, right.
So yeah. But I can't talk much about it because it's,
no, of course.
It's
totally understand. We must explain you're standing up today because you've done your back a bit of an injury.
Since I was 27, we do the back a bit of an injury. every once a year we do this. Yes. Okay. Yes.
And I've caught you at that time of the year.
That doesn't stop me. That's locking.
Nothing could stop Toni Basil. No. You are unstoppable. You're a one-woman dynamo. But on Zoom, you're also doing go-go lessons, aren't you?
I did do go-go lessons last summer because I've been riding on the crest of the waves of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I choreographed for Quentin Tarantino, which was all about the 60s. Sharon Tate, Roman Polanski, I knew them. So it was almost, doing that film was almost like for me an acid trip. I mean, because I'd sit in the makeup room and I'd see people that was like, looked like Sharon, you know, or looked like Roman. Yeah, no, that was a dream job.
What was the fabulous Quentin Tarantino like to work with?
It was phenomenal. He would love to go because he, you know, look, he directs it, he writes it, he's producing it. So he has free will to do anything he wants. Toni, I've got an idea. Do you think you can grab those Playboy bunnies and grab 4 of them? And can you get them to do a routine? Okay, Quentin, how soon is the setup? It's going to take us 20 minutes to set up the lights. Okay. So we used to, you know, like there was some things that I rehearsed with people and some things that were just winging it. And it was so much fun. So much fun.
Well, not only that, but you had a little cameo in that movie because I remember you and Margot Robbie dancing about on that jet, right?
And yes. And you know what? Margot, who lived very close to me, during that time period, we danced here. I worked with her, training her in 60s style dance so that whenever Quentin said, Margot, I want you to do a little dancing in the bedroom or this or that, she could, whether I was there or not. She wasn't going to do a hip hop step. She was going to do a pony or a twist. She was going to keep it in the genre of the 60s. You know, an audience goes, I don't remember any choreography in that film. Well, everybody in the Playboy Mansion scene was all trained. They were all doing that era. And different actors were doing different styles of the 60s. You know, people don't realize how, and with Quentin, everything's got to be authentic. But what they say about Quentin, that he's got a photographic memory, that's no lie. That is no lie, because when we were taught, we did a little section of with Leonardo DiCaprio and 3 dancers doing a TV show called The Hullabaloo. And Michael Landon, who was also a TV star at that time period in the 60s, he hosted that Hullabaloo. And I said, you know, Michael Landon did the Freddie on the Hullabaloo. Quentin Tarantino got up in the trailer and did the Freddie. The Freddie. I know the Freddie. And I thought, whoa, I got to be on top of everything.
Let me take you back to 1964 and a wonderful movie, Elvis Presley, Ann-Margret, Viva Las Vegas. You, of course, are there in that red dress, dancing your whatnots off. But of course, you also choreographed that amazing, now iconic movie. What was that like?
Yes, I was the assistant choreographer with David Winters, and we choreographed a lot of it at MGM Studios, but we also went back, and the musical number Around the Pool was done at the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas. So I got to go back to Las Vegas and choreograph Elvis and Ann in my hometown.
What was Elvis really like, Toni? Because you were up close and very personal, and he was a man with tremendous charisma and also a remarkable talent and great moves. But what was he like from where you were?
So friendly, so wonderful. First, very hardworking. I would work with him before he met up with Ann, showed him his staging, choreography. Look, Elvis is Elvis. You don't choreograph Elvis. With Ann, you kind of choreograph her. But we worked with them separately. We brought them together. But there was one day that, for some reason, David and I ended up at MGM Studios, and we had to get to a dance class that we were teaching. Elvis drove us to the dance class in that Rolls Royce. Now, let me tell you, he dropped us off at the Coronet Theater. We went upstairs. Elvis came upstairs and stood in the doorway. Can you imagine the dancers dancing and seeing Elvis standing at the doorway? Yep. I mean, they just continued to dance, but the whole vibe of the room was just like crazy. Yeah, he was fabulous. We really all got along very, very well. Who just did the Elvis film? Austin Butler. Austin Butler played Text in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Austin was the one riding the horse.
Yes.
That was one of the Manson gang guys. Austin, I did not meet because I was never out on that set. Austin came over here and I worked with him for the audition for the Elvis movie.
See, again, serendipity.
I would have loved to have choreographed that film. Oh, baby. I mean, hey, knock on the door. Hey, you know, I did Viva Las Vegas. I knew Elvis. I choreographed him. I did not even get in for an interview. The director has his people. He does these incredible films. But, you know, I thought, oh, I perked up. What do you mean? There's a film on Elvis? Gee, yeah. I wouldn't mind choreographing that one. No, didn't happen.
The beautiful Ann-Margret. I mean, there is something about her. She is so luminous and remains so to this day, doesn't she?
Oh, I saw her recently at the Staples Center, when it was still the Staples Center, for Tina's show. She's just as divine as ever. She's just sweet. She's just sweet. And she looks the same.
She's fabulous. Incredible. Of course, it was on that movie, Viva Las Vegas, that Elvis and Ann-Margret kind of fell in love. Not that we're ones to gossip, Toni, of course, but did you notice that chemistry? Was there that spark between the two of them?
I felt her excitement when she knew she was going to see him. Look, I felt like that when I knew that Leonardo DiCaprio was going to walk in the room when I was choreographing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Oh my God, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Of course you did. You're only human, Toni. You know, you might have an astonishing talent, but of course your heart would have skipped about 10 beats a second.
You know, you're always a fan. You're just always, you can't help but be a fan, you know? You can't help.
Well, it's kind of respecting the industry, isn't it? I mean, It is kind of a respect. That's what it is. You referenced the great David Bowie just a moment ago. Of course, you got to choreograph, I think, two of his incredible tours. There was Diamond Dogs, and of course, there was that amazing Glass Spider. Was that charisma there in person when you're that far away from him, as it was for the rest of the world when we just stood in awe of this man's incredible talent?
Absolutely. And I was flown to England to meet him when he heard about my choreography and my work. I remember meeting up with him, flying back to LA. Then I got a call from my agent to say, David wants to fly you to New York to do the opening number of his tour, Diamond Dogs. I said, make it a nice contract because I'm going to choreograph that whole show. And we had a great first meeting. I remember at the hotel, I was wearing peg pants. I was wearing this outfit. I'm not kidding. I was wearing this outfit. And he said, look, it's pegged pants. Yeah. This is my new t-shirt for the Wham cocktail. So I was wearing this outfit. He said, where'd you get those pants? And I said, I actually got them in New York at this place called Jenny Waterbags. He says, let's go. This is what I'm going to be wearing in Diamond Dogs. He was just leaving the Aladdin Sane look. He wanted to make a big change, and he started to build his wardrobe up at Jenny Waterbags.
Just tell me about the Bowie you got to see and just how incredible that talent is up so close.
He loved to experiment in ideas, and we'd try this and we'd try that. And there was never, that doesn't work, but we'll try something else. It was never, oh, that doesn't work. What are we going to do? He always respected his own talent, and he always knew he would get there. He would just get there. You know, he would get to that place. I had some wonderful experiences with him. My favorite one, we worked on the Diamond Dogs number, where I had the dogs. Instead of, he had his two singers on leashes, but they wrapped him up. He fell to his knees at the end of the number. Yeah. But Panic in Detroit was the next number that was on the list. And we weren't too sure what we were going to do with it. And one day, but at the end of the number of just rehearsing, just the two of us, you saw this light bulb go on over his head, you know, like a cartoon light bulb. You see somebody light up.
Yep.
And he took the ropes off. And he grabbed some chairs, and he made chairs on all four corners. He took the Diamond Dog ropes. He made a boxing ring out of it. And he sang Panic in Detroit with the boxing gloves. And I could see he wasn't sure how we were going to end it, because, you know, vaudeville, you open big, you close big, and you fill in the middle. And I'm thinking, how's he going to close it? And all of a sudden I screamed out to him, knock yourself out. Knock yourself out at the end of the song. We made up that number in just the 3 minutes that it took. So that's the kind of experience I had with him.
Toni, his death in 2016 was such a shock to so many people I know.
I would get emails from him, and Brian Eno said the same thing. We got emails from him that year about a little bit of reminiscing, just a little bit about this or that. This is a true story. I'm sitting reading the Sunday paper, the LA Times, maybe it was the New York Times, and it said David Bowie, new journey, new something, a newspaper. And I'm sitting in front of the TV and I'm reading this paper, breaking news, David Bowie has died. And I'm reading this paper that says he's alive. He's got an album. Yes, It was a shock to me. But you know, he did a video that in retrospect, that video of it was it was retrospect of what he was going through, because that was
Oh,
a very
totally, Tony. I think it was called Black Star. And it was him in the bed, and there was the wardrobe, and it was him moving on to the next adventure. It was so poignant. And in fact, talking with you now, really still so chilling. It's just, there is something about Bowie, you just never expected him to leave where we are now.
look. I think it was the Olympics that year before he died in the UK. He opened the Olympics on screen and he closed the Olympics on screen. And I remember emailing him and saying, you are the only person that could possibly open the Olympics, close the Olympics, and not even be there.
Yeah.
Just, you know,
True.
I mean, that's David Bowie.
Let's talk about the divine Miss M, because I know you have a very special connection to the irrepressibly fabulous Bette Midler. Of course, fans might not know that that was you choreographing The Rose, her incredible movie from, I think, about 1976.
Absolutely. I've worked with her since 1975. I did the tour just before that called The Detour. And actually, I was talking to her last night saying I was going to do your show, because she and, you know, her show, we toured in Australia a couple of times.
Yes, you did. I love her so much, Toni, because she is so incredibly socially aware. She looks beyond that little showbiz bubble. She has this incredible conscience, whether it might be for humanitarian causes, for animals, just for justice. I mean, she is an amazing person.
She plants trees all over New York. I mean, she does. And we were in Atlantic City. We arrived really late at night. We were doing a show in one of the casinos, and she saw plastic bags out on a lawn. She went out and cleaned up the plastic bags before we're checking. I said, what are you doing? I'm cleaning up these plastic bags. Okay. So cleaning up New York. And of course, she tweets politically, you know, constantly. And you know, she just was given the Kennedy Center honor.
I certainly do.
And I had the honor of going there with her and experiencing that. And it was a mighty night. It was a mighty night because it was, the president was up in the balcony with her, Nancy Pelosi. I mean, it was an extraordinary night. And it was like, pinch, 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 pinch. Am I here? Am I really experiencing this with my girlfriend who just looked dynamite? She had this white dress with her award around her neck. Oh, I burst into tears when I saw her. She just looked like a queen, and she looked like, hell yeah, they better honor you, girl. Hell yeah.
I love the fact that you still have these wonderful pinch yourself moments.
All of a sudden, serendipity happens. You know, it's like this Wham Rebop shirt and the cocktail, which was named, all of a sudden I have a cocktail named Toni Basil, Toni Basil Wham. I have the song out on all streaming platforms. And
fantastic.
And the t-shirt, and it was because Kenny Ortega, the great director, Kenny Ortega, who I've known for years, sent me a video and said, Toni, look at this. This is you dancing on the Jerry Lewis telethon, which was a 24-hour telethon that they had in Vegas. And I was performing in Vegas. He said, people should see this. They think of you just in a cheerleader outfit. Here you are dancing and singing in heels, doing a song from the 30s. He said, people should see this. So he sent this to Bette. Bette posted it on her Instagram. It went to 100,000 views out of nowhere. Serendipity. All of a sudden, when I had received this, my orchestra leader from that time period was visiting with me, with his friend. He said, we have a recording of this. He used to sing this all the time. I bet I can find a recording of it. He found a recording of it. We put it up on CD Baby. Then his friend said, well, let's do some t-shirts. Let's do some advertising. Hello.
And there you are.
There I am. And then it's simultaneously in Charleston, South Carolina. There was a cocktail named the Toni Basil cocktail because they were spirits that had a lot of basil in them.
Yes.
So they called it Toni Basil cocktail. And the gentleman, the head brewer, the head, what is he?
Distiller.
The head distiller, Dave Smith from St. George Spirits, happened to be in Charleston, Carolina, when this little magazine article kind of said the recipe. And he said, called up a friend of mine and said, see if Toni wants to do a cocktail with us. So all of a sudden we have that cocktail out. I mean, and when you talk about all of a sudden, everything was like all of a sudden, the video, the t-shirt, the song appeared, the cocktail.
That's it. It's all happening to Toni Basil, and might I say, so it jolly well should. Tell me about Tina Turner, because I know she's very special to you, and you know the queen of rock and roll, and she always will be.
What year was it that she and Ike split up? The late 70s.
Yes, I think so. It was in the 70s. Yeah.
And I got a call from a friend of mine that said Tina has left Ike. She's in hiding. But when she comes out of hiding, she wants to continue to do shows. She wants to know if you will be her choreographer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I did her first club act after she left Ike. That club act had the song Disco Inferno in it.
Wow.
And Disco Inferno in her movie, What's Love Got to Do with It? The choreography that is being done for that musical number is my choreography from her first nightclub act.
Wow.
And I just choreographed her last tour, which was in the middle of me choreographing Bette's Showgirl Must Go On in Vegas. So I was doing Bette and Tina at the same time. And Tina's, I think we did in 2010, in 2010. I did her last tour.
You mentioned Frank Sinatra when you were a little girl standing on the edge of the stage and with all of those greats. Of course, you got to tour with the great old Blue Eyes, chairman of the board, later in life.
I did.
Did you share with him those wonderful stories of you standing on the edge of the stage and with eyes like saucers and thinking, wow?
Not really. It wasn't that we were isolated from him, but I was touring with the Lockers. It's Mr. Sinatra. You don't bother him too much. But I used to watch him after we were on the stage. The shows we did with him were in the round. The round means that he had an audience on all sides. And I remember watching an audience member leave. And I remember the woman saying to her husband, isn't it great that even though it was in that round circle, he was always facing us? That's the kind of performer he was.
Yeah.
That even though it was in the round, everyone thought they were seeing him at all times because the stage revolved and he revolved. And I thought, yeah, the consummate entertainer. He knew how to do that.
The 60s for you must have been such an era of incredible energy and discovery and so many new things. I mean, for instance, Easy Rider, Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, and there is you, of course, playing one of the hookers.
I remember having dinner over at Dennis's house with Peter, Dean Stockwell, myself, Dennis's wife, Brooke. And I remember Dennis and Peter talking about this film that they wanted to do. And that was the first time I think that modern music was used as backdrop for a film. In other words, there wasn't a score written for that. He used, they used rock pop songs that were popular at the time.
Totally, absolutely.
Yeah, that was the first time that ever happened. Boy, these guys really, really just broke boundaries.
Totally. It's a seminal movie, and it completely captured that counter culture.
And we were not on drugs. We were not on drugs when we were shooting that scene. Let me tell you.
Mind you, Dennis Hopper was a fairly wild guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I auditioned and read for the part.
Yes.
I auditioned and read for the part, and just like with Quentin's films, some of it we had the dialogue, and some of it we improvised.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I went to acting class, and I went to improvisational class. You got to be armed and dangerous in this.
Oh, you certainly do. But I mean, also, Toni, thinking of Five Easy Pieces as well, with Jack Nicholson. And that was the second time you got to work with Jack, because there was that movie Head that I think he created as well.
He was one of the writers. He was one of the writers of it. Yeah. He was one of the writers of it. I remember being in the car, Helena Kalyanotis, myself, Karen, and Jack. And I think we were shooting in Utah. And I remember Jack stopping. A bee had flown in, landed on his neck, stung him, pulled the bee off, boom, finished the scene.
Wow. One of the greats ever.
Yeah. Well, we were actually back and we were in acting class together. We both took Jeff Corey's acting class together. And so I was in acting class in the early 60s with a lot of people that became very, very famous, from Terry Garr, all the people that worked in Mean Streets with Scorsese, John Voight. I mean, we were all in acting class before we became famous, before they became famous. So Jack and I we were in acting class together. So I knew Jack from acting class.
Are you in touch with him still now?
A little bit. I can call him up.
Okay, so Toni, now let's clear something up, because there are those that insist you are in this Mae West Raquel Welch movie called Myra Breckenridge. I've seen that movie. I've scoured every scene, and I'm not sure that you're in it. Are you or not?
I am not in it.
I have scoured that film and I never saw you. And that's my question. What happened? What happened?
I am not in it. I'm listening.
Why do people think you are?
I don't know. They think I'm the hat check girl or the cigarette girl.
That's right.
I'm not in it. This poor girl, she doesn't get credit for being in my second. I get credit for it. And I'm going, no, I wasn't in it.
Yes, see, I thought so. I didn't think you were in that movie, but there are ardent fans that insist you are. Anyway, I'm glad we've cleared that up like Clearasil.
Don't believe everything you Google.
But you were in Sweet Charity, weren't you, with Shirley MacLaine? You were one of the dancers in Sweet Charity.
That was the last time I was ever a dancer in something. And I auditioned because I wanted to experience Bob Fosse. I knew Gwen Verdon was his assistant. And so I did, I think it was called The Rhythm of Life. And I was just getting ready to do Easy Rider. I knew I had already been cast in Easy Rider, but I really wanted the experience of working with Gwen and Fosse.
We began this chat with a reference to the Bend and Snap, of course. That was from the first Legally Blonde movie. Just wonderful. Reese Witherspoon, the fabulous Jennifer Coolidge, who I just adore. She was wonderful. And that's kind of, who you created that wonderful Bend and Snap for, to bring her out of the doldrums and let her have some life. How did you come up with that particular piece of choreography? It's just genius.
I didn't. I want to give credit where it's due. The two writers that wrote the story that wrote the movie. They came to my house. They said, we want you to choreograph this film. And we got a number in it called the Bend and Snap. And they stood up at my coffee table. They went down, they came up, and they snapped. And they said, this is the Bend and Snap. You're gonna build a number around the Bend and Snap. And so, I mean, they gave me a lot to work with. I mean, they gave me the idea. Those girls knew they wanted to do a musical number with something called the Bend and Snap.
What's coming up for you in the future, Toni? You've got new music.
Serendipity is coming up.
But you've got new music. You're wearing a shirt. There's the song. Wow.
You know what I realized is people have not heard a lot of the stuff I did and recorded other than Mickey, other than that album. So all of a sudden, as I said, the Wham Rebop came up. I have another song that's going to come out before the 40th anniversary of Mickey being #1 called Breakaway, which is a song I recorded in the late 60s. People don't, I was recording then too. So we're kind of thinking, wow, with Quentin Tarantino in the 60s and all of that, everything's coming around for me. So I need to address my eclectic career and kind of get it out there, because as Kenny Ortega said, they only know you in that cheerleader outfit, Toni. You gotta start, getting some stuff out there. So there's a lot of projects, but you don't want to jinx the projects. So, and there's always, hope to gosh, we start to get backing into the street dance battles, because I judge a lot of the international street dance battles, and people, it's a not a small community. I mean, we're hoping that community can get back on its feet. Right now, we're doing a lot of virtual stuff. So we're hoping that all of that stuff, because I get to go all over the world looking at all these fabulous dancers and teaching master classes in locking and whacking, and also the 60s, because the 60s came before the 70s, and it's like, it's in your body. So if this is what was happening in the 60s, then locking happens. It flows. Mm-hmm.
I'm so thrilled. Speaking of music, you are revisiting your music life, and you're releasing some of those songs that may have been kind of passed over, or because Mickey was so dominant.
Well, I was doing live shows, and we didn't have a record deal. And when I got record deals, we were doing new songs. So there's a lot of songs that I had recorded in the past that aren't like the song Wham.
That's right. That hadn't been released, and now it's being released, and it's kind of like looking back over it. It's standing up on your hill of fabulousness and saying, oh my gosh, I remember that. Yes, let's revisit that, and so forth. Yeah. You have your website, of course, where people now watching who have gotten to know a whole different side and dynamic to Toni Basil.
Yes, we've got tonibasil.net, which is the website. We also, which I struggle to keep up with, oh my God, because I got to call my web guy and say, can you add this? Can you add that? But also my YouTube channel, Toni Basil's House, has over 100 videos, all old, new, everything. Also now my Instagram, official Toni Basil. So, and forget TikTok. I don't even go near it. I wouldn't have a clue, because how many things can a girl keep up with? Good grief.
Well, exactly it.
It's so don't expect it. Well, famous last words. I could say, don't expect to see me on TikTok, but
TikTok, you might be there. But Toni, you've got so much going on. I really exhort you to have a bit of a think about doing a memoir.
And my t-shirt. And you can go to tonibasil.net, go to merchandise, and look, there is all these t-shirts, every part of my career, whether there's like 3 Mickey shirts, you know, different designs. There's the Wham shirt. There's a shirt, there's shirts from every decade. The locking shirt, every decade.
I think we've provided not just a slice of the key lime pie, we've provided the entire pie. And isn't it wonderful to be a glutton?
Yes, and please send me a piece of that. I love key lime pie. Oh, Craig, you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind. Hey, Craig. Hey, Craig.
You are just a piece of heaven and then some, Toni.
Okay.
So, you know, I wish I was there on that wonderful cream sofa and we were having a chat with a piece of key lime pie.
I love that sofa. You know whose sofa that is?
No.
It's Bette's.
Oh, fancy that you've got Bette Midler's old sofa in your studio there.
Yep. There you go.
I love it. Thank you, Toni.
We recycle. We don't throw anything away. We recycle.